in my experience, just like sellers, you need to talk to a lot of buyers before you get a good one, right? But if it's a nice house in a nice neighborhood, I almost never have a problem finding a good buyer. Many times when you're having struggles finding a good tenant buyer, it's because it's not in a desirable neighborhood. Okay? Now, that's when I'm focusing on lease options, I like to go after the nicer homes in the median priced incomes areas and above. All right? I'm going to show you a little trick here where to find those neighborhoods. When you're focusing on lease options, go for the low-hanging fruit. But at the same time, don't go for the low-hanging rotten fruit. Right? Because honestly, yeah, you could go into the areas, what's the median priced home, 3-bedroom, blue collar in Colorado Springs? What's the price range? 200? 185? Okay. In St. Louis, it's maybe 125. All right. I think national average is about 150, 130 maybe, okay? So I like targeting those median priced neighborhoods and above. All right. When you do that, you're going to get a high demand for those homes. Sometimes it's easier to get those homes in the lower end areas because there's a lot of motivated sellers in those lower end areas. But you're going to have a hard time finding a good quality tenant buyer who wants to lease option and eventually buy a home in those lower end areas. If somebody wants to lease option a home, they want to buy it, they want to live in it, they want to raise a family in it. Well, what neighborhoods do they want to do that in? They want to do that in the nicer neighborhoods that have good school districts. So if you got a nice house in a nice area and the terms are good, the rent is competitive, you're not going to have a hard time finding a good buyer for that. So at the same time, there's always a price that anything will sell for. And sometimes, I still will not turn down those deals in the areas I don't like. I'll still take those on maybe, but I'll give the seller, I need to give them some realistic expectations. It's going to be harder for me to find somebody that is really good for this neighborhood, and the chances of them wanting to buy this house in 2 or 3 years is probably not very good. Because you look at the statistics, it's 50, 75% rental homes in this area. Nobody really wants to go move in there and buy homes in that area. One of the things I like to go to find where those good houses are, what neighborhoods to target, is Google. All right, so this may be a little hard to see, but I'm going to walk you through it. I just go to Google. What county is Colorado Springs? El Paso County? El Paso. El Paso County heat map. Now the reason I search for this is because it's going to give me the Trulia link. For some reason, if I go into Trulia and look for it, it's hard to find the heat maps. So I'll go to Google, type in El Paso County heat map, and I'll touch this link. It's going to take me to Trulia's website, and it's going to take me to the heat map for this county. And the heat map is just, I know this is going to be hard to see, but I'll try to walk through as best I can. I'm actually going to go to map. Okay. Now, this is the average listing price of homes in this county. Okay? And you can see the red is 368 and up, and the green is 158 and down. Okay? Now, this is the average listing price. Now, this is important. Right here in the yellow in the middle, the average listing price is 236 to 289. Remember that number. Okay? 236 to 289. You can click here to find the median sale price, which is different, right? 236 to 289, I'm going to click on median sales price. Now the median sale price is 182 to 223. There's always a difference between what people are wanting to sell their house for and what they really are selling their house for, right? But the thing that's interesting about this is the median sale price. To find the median of a number, you sort all of the sales from smallest to biggest, and you take the middle. The middle one is the median. It's not an average. So it does a good job of removing the outliers, the really cheap homes and the really expensive homes, and it just focuses on where most of the activity is. It's a bell curve. So if you look at the orange to the light green, that's where 75% of the homes are being sold in Colorado Springs, in this county. So the great thing about this heat map is you can go in, if you want to target the median priced zip codes in your marketing, all you need to do is this is yellow, and it's kind of hard to see here, but you can see all of these are zip codes. It breaks it up into zip codes. So I can click right here. This is zip code 80809. Okay. Here's another zip code 80918. So if I was going to do some marketing in Colorado Springs, specifically with direct mail, I'd want to target the absentee owners in these zip codes because this is the median zip code. This is where most of the first-time home buyers are going to buy homes. This is where most of the homes are being sold. Does that make sense? And you're going to have an easier time finding tenant buyers in these zip codes. I can virtually guarantee that you're going to have an easier time finding somebody in these yellow zip codes than you are out here in the green ones, right? And many times if you go into cities like LA, you'll see the green is right in the middle of LA, the inner city areas, and it gets kind of yellow as you go out, and then red along the coast or in the real expensive areas. So this right here will tell you where to go. You can go, then I look at the light orange. Here's a light orange, 80925. Okay, these reds, 80908, that's where Michael lives, right? That's where the fires were. They haven't adjusted this yet. They haven't adjusted this yet.
So it's red, all right. Yeah.
That's where the fires were. So you can go into these and analyze them some more. I mean, this looks like a good zip code, 80809. It's close to the mountains. You click on that, and a link will say here, now show me all the homes that are for sale in 80809. Okay, and this is a little ninja. But you can go now into these homes, and you're going to find homes that are a lot more expensive and a lot more and cheaper. But this shows you now all the homes in that zip code. Now you can't see my whole screen, but here you can narrow it down to recently solds, homes that are currently for sale, and you can sort this by price, low to high. You can sort this out, so you can just do some research. Well, the cool thing is, if you can zoom in and out, and you can have your VA go in and write a list of all of the properties that are for sale in these zip codes. And if you're not a realtor, you could possibly send them some postcards and say, hey, do you want to lease purchase your house? Okay? These are really good zip codes. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I were to get some properties in these zip codes, I would probably sell them pretty quick. And I would not have the problem of finding a good tenant buyer, as long as the house is in decent shape, right? And the rent is marketable, is reasonable. So you can go in and do all kinds of research with this Trulia and with these heat maps and zoom in and out. And like, let's click on this one, 350. Now, again, these are asking prices. Here's one for 265. I can't really move this over. This shows the street view and the photos. They've dropped their. This is a really nice house. Do you think I'd have any problems lease purchasing this house?
I don't know.
Sometimes it tells you how long it's been on the market. So it's been on the MLS for 91 days. Okay, so you could, if you don't have access to the MLS, you could have your VA go in and say, give me all of the homes in these colored areas that are actively listed for sale that have been on Trulia longer than 90 days. Okay? So then you can really get focused and have your VA send postcards to these homes. Does that make sense? So I use heat maps all the time to do my market research. The next thing I do, and that's for wholesaling lease options, because I'm wanting to go after the nice homes in the nice areas. If I want to do traditional wholesaling, I still target those leads. What I'll do is I'll go and I'll get cash buyers. I have systems I can use where I can go in and it gives me all of the cash buyers in the last 6 months. And that tells me where the hot activity areas are. Okay? And there's probably a real similar correlation between the yellow areas we saw in here and where most of the investors are buying homes. But the investors that are buying homes are probably buying homes in the dark green areas because those are good rental neighborhoods, okay, depending on where it's located. So Trulia is a great place to go for doing some market research. Let me show you, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's do, I'm going to go through what I say in my marketing. I talked about this before. My marketing when I send it out is, hey, I saw your house on Craigslist. I was wondering if it was available for lease purchase or rent to own. If it is, please call me. Okay? It's with local phone number. There's no website. It's not salesy. It's very simple. Now, when it comes to postcards, when I'm sending out what I look in the markets, I want to know where the buyers are. That's why I go to Trulia heat maps. If I'm targeting traditional wholesaling, I want to know where the cash buyer investors are. And it's really easy to get that information. Okay? So I go to Trulia to find my heat maps when I'm looking for good zip codes to do lease purchasing in. And I want to stay in the median priced areas. When it comes to which zip codes I want to target for investors, for cash buyers, when I'm doing traditional wholesaling, I want to find, and a great way to do this is with ListSource. And I don't have time to show it to you, but if you go to ListSource, you can basically build your list before you even buy it. So you could say, go into this zip code, and so get a list of all of the 30 zip codes in your county. Okay? And one by one you can go in and say, give me all of the absentee-owned properties that have sold in the last 6 months. I'll show you. Let me just show you real quick, because this is important. All right, I'm going to go to listsource.com. I'm just going to go through like I'm buying the list, but I'm not going to actually buy it. I'm going to click Build List. What this again is going to tell me how many absentee owner transactions occurred in each zip code. And I want to target the zip codes that have a lot of activity in them, right? A lot of activity with investors. Hopefully this won't be too slow. Okay, so for geography, let's do, this might be too slow for me to do. Let's do zip code, select state. What's a zip code out here? 80920. Is that a high-end area or a median?
Yeah. That's right here. Do you want low end?
Give me median, a good median price.
10.
I'm sorry, 80918. All right, I'm going to add that in here. Oops. Okay, now I'm going to go up. I'm going to click Property. I'm going to pick Last Market Sale Date, last 6 months. Okay, last 6 months. Then I'm going to go up here to Options. I'm going to do Absentee Owned. Okay, now it's processing the request. In this zip code 80918, it didn't do the, okay. There's 2,125 absentee owners in that zip code. I'm going to go back here to property. Oh, I forgot to do add. You click add. So I did the last 6 months, I added that into this area here. It's going to take this 2125 down to 40. So in that zip code, there are 40 absentee owners, or 40 landlords bought homes in that zip code in the last 6 months. All right, now all I do is I go to my next zip code. Go back here to geography, remove that one. What's another zip code? 80910. Well, or not. Well, you get the point. So I'm going to do 20, 30 zip codes. I'm just going to write them down and find out where all of the activity is. And that's who I want to start sending postcards to. 80910. Click add. It's processing. 426,000 down to survey says 31. So there's 31 homes. Okay. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? And how much did that cost? All right. Nothing against all of those. You can buy these really expensive cash buyer systems, but there's other ways to do it for free. Okay.
That will give you the cash buyer's address.
Well, if I wanted to purchase this list, yeah, it'll give me. Well, I don't want to know who purchased the home in the last 6 months. Now that I know, okay, I got my top 10 zip codes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and purchase a list of all of the landlords in those zip codes. I don't care when they bought it. If the list is too big, I'm going to narrow it down. If I'm focusing on lease options or traditional wholesaling, I'm going to narrow it down to a little equity or a lot of equity. So you can keep on narrowing it down and widening it to get a good list. And you can buy leads. You can buy a list of absentee owners from ListSource if you want. Another place to buy it is, I just discovered this a few months ago, is the same place I do my postcards, click-to-mail. You can actually buy lists for click-to-mail, and it's about a quarter of the price that ListSource charges. Yeah. Click2mail.com, you can buy lists of absentee owners there, and they only charge like 6 cents. ListSource charges about 18 cents a name, so it's quite significant. Yes?
What was the one you mentioned before, ListSource?
There's a website, Click2Mail, where you can buy leads from as well. Yes?
What return address do you use? Your home address, or do you have a P.O. box?
The question was, what return address do I use in my direct mail? I have a UPS store mailbox, a UPS store mailbox.
Oh, okay.
I like that better because it's like a suite. You know, you could say, my address is 2977 Highway K, number 228. It looks more professional than P.O. Box
Right.
something. And plus, the UPS store, it's really, because I always have my kids with me, and I can call them up, say, hey, I'm going to be there. Will you put my mail on the counter? You know, or I'll call them and say, do I have any mail? And they'll tell me yes or no before I go out there. So I can park right on the curb in front of this busy grocery store where it's at, and I can run in. Don't tell my wife, but I leave the kids in the car. And I run in real quick. I take the keys with me. Sorry, no, I don't lock them in. But I run in, right there on the counter is my mail, and I walk right out. So I like the UPS store. It's more expensive than a P.O. box, but I can't believe I said that.
It's gotta be more convenient though.
It is way, yeah.
It's on tape too.
Okay, so that's where I do my market research. When I do a new city like California, you know, I go to Trulia and I go to ListSource and I find out where the hot activity is. It's not rocket science. I send all my postcards through Click2Mail. My postcard is real simple. We've tested this. When I send mail, I don't send a fancy lease purchase message. It's just, hey, we buy houses. Unless, if I'm sending mail to a listed property, it's a lease purchase message. Okay, does that make sense? Yes.
Why would you send postcards to cash buyers for wholesaling lease?
Question was, why would I sell direct mail to cash buyers for wholesaling lease options? I don't. Let me just explain. When I'm sending mail to absentee owners. Okay, so I do both traditional wholesaling and wholesaling lease options. It just turns out 75-80% of the time I'm doing a wholesaling lease option because they don't have enough equity. But if I can get a seller that's willing to drop their price low enough for me, I'd rather get that under contract and wholesale it to a cash buyer and make more money. Okay, so you just have to figure out what you want to focus on. Go through the process I talked about of how many leads do you need to get every day, how much marketing do you need to do to get those leads, what percent of your deals do you want traditional wholesaling, what percent of them do you want wholesaling lease options. If you only want to do wholesaling lease options, that's fine, that's great. Then you may not want to send postcards to landlords in low-end zip codes. Does that make sense? So in the Trulia heat map, you'd only focus on absentee landlords in the median price in the yellow and the orange zip codes. Does that make sense? So just focus on absentee owners in those good zip codes. Yes?
Just a quick question. For the postcards, about how much are you spending to send postcards on a monthly basis? I don't know.
500 to $1,000 is what I spend a month. Who's the gentleman who had the friend?
So here I was going to tell you. You want to call him?
Sure. Why don't you come up and talk a little bit about what his situation is? What's your name again?
My name's Ted.
Ted, I'm sorry, yeah. Ted has a friend who...
And I don't know if you want to, there's some pictures of the house that don't even show.
Oh,
them.
no, it's okay.
Okay. So basically, I've been listening to Joe talk, and I've got a buddy who, we were high school friends. He lives in Idaho, and he just sold a really successful vitamin manufacturing company about December. He was married, bought this really nice home, and got divorced, and he's living there by himself. It's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, over 4,000 square feet, and he's just sick and tired of the payments. But he's had it on the market. He had it by owner for about 3 months, no luck. Has had it for 3 months with a realtor, no luck. Bought it for $550. They're trying to sell for about, I think, $455. So he's taken a big loss. $2,600 a month. So it's in the upper end of the price range.
Let me write this.
So I got him. His name's Dwayne. And so you can,
What does he owe?
he owes 404. He's asking 455, and the realtor said, we can get this sold for you, no problem, in 3 months. No offers. The only issue he's had is carpeting because he has dogs. About $7,000 to replace that. He didn't want to do it. The listing just expired, I think, last week. He's replacing the carpets, and I've talked to him about this and said, this sounds perfect for you. He's sick and tired of the payments. He can afford them, but he's one of those that just doesn't want to make the payments. And so $2,600 a month. He wants to go just rent someplace for $1,000 a month with his dogs and get this off his his plate. But he doesn't want to take a loss. He's already lost $100,000 on it. And he's like, man, I'm just sick and tired. He's very conservative. So I've been trying to tell him, why don't you just do this for 2 years? If you can get a good tenant buyer in there, obviously a home that priced that high, you're probably going to get a pretty darn good tenant that's going to want to buy this property.
So this is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. Is my audio working okay? He's got a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,100 square foot house, nice neighborhood near a clubhouse. He's asking $455?
$455 was the asking price. No offers. 3 months by owner and 3 months with a realtor. He'd like to get minimum of $440 on it at least.
So he wants to walk away with some money?
He wants to walk away with some money. I think because he paid $550 for it, he's thinking in his mind, I'm already walking. It's already going to cost me $100,000. I don't want it to cost me. And the Boise market has started to take off. It's like number 2 in the nation right now for sales and everything. So
This is Boise, Idaho.
Yeah, so it is appreciating and stuff like that. But and like I said, I don't know what Dwayne will think here. I talked to him and I said, would you be interested in talking to Joe? He said, yeah, I am. At first he didn't want to. I want this property sold. And I'm like, well, what happens if you drop it where you net nothing? Well, I don't want to do that. So I just thought this would be good to talk to him and see what are your thoughts. That's about it. Yeah, and like I said, the only thing is I talked about the option fee, and he's like, oh, why do I have to pay that? So like I said, he's very conservative. Wants to. Let me give you his number here.
Well, if he, let me try them. If, what was I gonna say? Yeah, this is a house where 3% of 400,000 is 12 grand option deposit. I'd be willing to give the seller 1 month's rent, okay, from that option deposit if it's a big deal to him. So it's a real nice house. You can't see it maybe, but looks like it backs to trees.
He's got a front yard is a park, and the backyard is actually a bird sanctuary, so no one can build in back room. So I mean, it's really a great location and a nice house. And I'm surprised it hasn't sold for what he was asking for too. But you can see. Let me just show you one quick one.
All right, here we go. It's on speaker. Let me turn it up.
Wouldn't you know it?
We can always try later.
Yeah, I'll keep my number on that way if he calls.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice.
What I wanted to cover first, kind of more about what I say to sellers, okay? Real quick, letters. I use a service called yellowlettermail.com for yellow letters, and I don't get anything out of recommending them. It's just a good resource. A good friend of mine does it. It's 89 cents if you buy a certain minimum quantity, and I think it's 1,000. And if you use my coupon code, you get 10% off, which is significant. I mean, it goes from $1 a letter to 89 cents a letter. The coupon code is Joe space McCall, but you got to capitalize it right. Capital J-O-E space, capital M, lowercase c, uppercase C, A-L-L. Okay? He's a good guy. Huh?
What was that name?
Joe McCall. That's the coupon
That's
code.
the coupon code? Oh, okay.
It's capital J-O-E, capital M, C, capital C, A-L-L. All right, so here's when my VAs are doing cold calls, this is the script I give the VAs to me. Hey, I saw your house on Craigslist. Is it still available? Can you tell me a little bit about it? We're investors and we buy and lease properties. Would you be open to leasing your house for a few years and then selling it? Okay, it's a simple cold call script that my VAs, when they're doing that for me, do. And they write down their answers and put it into my lead database management system. By the way, you need to track your leads. Okay, you start doing a lot of marketing, you're going to get a lot of leads. You need to track your leads. You could use a yellow pad of paper. I've done that for a long time. Or you could, hold on 1 second. You could use a yellow pad of paper. You could use folder pages.
He said call him back in just a couple minutes, so whenever you want to.
I started using Google Docs to track my leads, and then I started using FreedomSoft, which is a really good software, where FreedomSoft is $100 a month, $200 a month, depending on your package. And it's a great way to track your leads. My new favorite is a tool called REI Blackbook. And some friends of mine created it in St. Louis, and it's really good. I've not seen anything better than it.
What's it called?
REI Blackbook. Now, if you go to their website, it really doesn't, they don't do a good job of explaining what it is. They're in the middle of kind of creating like a fancy looking website that sells it. But it's a great product. I've not seen anything like it before.
I'm trying to get him a webinar.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
And all they've been selling it to right now is the Rich Dad coaching students. You've heard of the Rich Dad coaching program, you know? They travel all over the country. They're getting tons of business from the Rich Dad coaching program. And so they've signed, the Rich Dad coaching, it's the largest real estate coaching program in the country. And they've signed an exclusive agreement with REI Blackbook to only sell REI Blackbook. That's how much they like it. They've been basically recommending it to all their students, almost requiring it. You need a way to track your leads. And it does a whole bunch of other things. It helps you build websites. It helps you. So if you're not on my email list, get on Michael's, because one of us will be doing a webinar soon with these guys. It's really powerful. It's really good. And so we are now in the process of making our VAs use it for all of our students that we're doing marketing for, and all the different markets that we're doing marketing for as well. But I forgot to mention this too. We limited the marketing for the first 10, and that starts 30 days. I'm gonna open it up to more, but your marketing won't start until 60 days. Does that make sense? So if you're not one of the first 10, that's still okay. You just have to wait another 30 days, so wait 60 days before the marketing starts for you. Okay? Now, some basic questions when I'm talking to sellers. What are you going to do? That's one thing I'm going to ask Dwayne. What are you going to do, Dwayne, if you can't sell this house? How long can you sit on it? Wait. Are you going to rent it out? No. I don't want to be a landlord. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to short sale it? I just asked the question. Normally they say, well, if they say, I'm just going to sit on it until I sell it. They're not a motivated seller. They're not, just get off the phone. They say, well, yeah, I might just have to rent it out. Well, I say, have you thought about who you're going to rent it to? Would you rather rent it to a tenant who's going to call you every time the faucet leaks? Or would you rather rent it to somebody who wants to buy it? Okay? It's just a great question to ask. I ask them, why hasn't it sold yet? Why would you even want to sell it? Why haven't you gotten any offers? It sounds like a beautiful home. And then what are you going to do if you can't sell this house? Many of them don't think about that. The other thing I ask is, do you mind if I ask you a few questions to see if we can do business today? Or do you see if I tell them I'm an investor, can I ask you a few questions, I get their permission? By the way, one of the things I put at the beginning of this is, sounds like I caught you in the middle of something. I'll ask that because then they say, well, no, it's okay, you can talk. They're inviting me in, giving me the permission to talk to them. Is that him?
Talk? Yeah.
Well,
You okay?
Does he have a good speakerphone on that?
Hey, Dwayne. Let me call you right back. My speaker's not as good. All right. Actually, it isn't. I couldn't barely hear him out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just introduce you and then. Hey, Dwayne, what's up, Ted? Hey, so I got Joe here, and I'm just going to hand the phone over to him, and then he's going to ask you some questions, and you can ask anything you want of him, too. Well, we're on a speaker, so, I mean, I'll hear you, so we'll both be able to talk to you. Okay. Well, basically, Joe's just going to ask you, he's going to kind of just ask you questions about your house, what's going on with it, and he's... Well, it's basically a lease option, but he just wants to find out if this isn't right for you. He's going to tell you that. He's just, so he's just. How it works and everything. That's exactly what I'm putting him on. But I'm right here, so if you have any questions with me too, I'm here with him. Like I said, we're both here. So, hold a sec. Here's Joe.
Hey, Dwayne, I'm Joe, and I do a lot of lease purchasing, and Ted just asked me to get on the phone and maybe explain a little bit of the process to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Tell me what you guys have going.
Yeah. It may not be a good program for you, and that's fine. We just explain kind of what it's all about. But leasing a property with an option to buy it is basically leasing your property to someone who wants to buy it later on down the road. So would you be open to leasing your property for a few years and then selling it, or probably not?
I don't know for sure. It only if the people were willing to pay at least my mortgage cost and were there upstanding renters.
Yeah.
I bought this place for right under $600,000, and this area is extremely nice.
Yeah. Well, from what Ted was telling me, it's a very nice house, and you paid very good money for it. Unfortunately, it's not worth that anymore, right?
No, but I still would want to get the mortgage paid for if I was going to lease it.
Yeah. Well, another big advantage to lease purchasing is you can probably sell it for more than what you could on the market today, as long as you're willing to wait a little bit for it.
Yeah, I don't want to wait 4 or 5 years though.
No.
That's the two I'm saying, yeah.
So let me ask you, was it listed with a realtor? Is it still listed?
It is listed with the realtor, yeah, right now.
Okay. How long has it been listed?
About 2.5 months.
Okay. And what's your asking price now for it?
$450 something.
Okay.
And I have $150,000 into it.
Okay. Ted was showing me pictures a little bit of it. It looks like a very nice house.
Yeah, it really is.
You've probably been getting some people very interested in it. We've been getting offers.
No, I haven't got any offers. No, I think I have a bad agent.
I've heard the market in Boise is actually rebounding. Are you seeing any of that?
It is on the middle to lower end houses. On the jumbo loans or the 425 and above, it's a little bit, probably about the same.
Okay. Now, are you living in the house now?
Yeah.
Okay. And how much longer do you need to, or can you wait to sell it?
Oh, I can wait as long as I can, but I would like to sell as fast as possible.
Okay. Have you thought about what you're going to do if you can't sell this house?
Oh, I'm sure I can sell it. Just a matter of time. I mean, there's a buyer out there, I'm sure. But I have 2 other homes that I can move into.
Okay.
So
you can basically you can basically wait for another year if you had to, right? Before you had to sell it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what would come down to. I'd probably move into my other house that the renters are in. That's up in a year, so.
So
But ideally, I would like to get out of this place because I just don't like living here.
okay. Well, would you be?
Tell me about what you guys do.
Well, basically, we're investors and we buy and lease properties, and I'm helping. Ted called me and asked me to help him with this deal because he's not done many lease purchases before, and I told him I would help him explain it a little bit. But I've been doing lease purchasing for years, and it's basically we set it up where we lease the property for a couple years, and depending on the numbers, we either stay in the middle of it as an investment or we just assign our contract to a tenant buyer. But, if we could, let me ask you this, Ted. I know your time is valuable. If we could set it up where we could get a tenant buyer in the house who could lease your property, take care of all the maintenance and repairs, and have a contract to buy the house for retail price, whatever that is, and you won't have to pay any commissions, you wouldn't be interested in that, would you?
How long would the lease be? That's what it comes down to.
Well, it depends. It could be 1-2 years. It could be more.
Yeah,
we just can't.
I wouldn't want to do it for more than 2 years the max because the home's going to get beaten up and I have no idea what the market's going to do.
Yeah. Well, we can't guarantee that our tenant buyer is going to buy the house. But you have to just look at you.
Downside. Yeah.
You just have to look at your options. If you want to,
exactly.
if you want to keep on dropping the price until it sells, that's great. Go ahead and do that. But if you want to get out, do you want to just rent it? Well, we would say, look, don't rent it to a tenant who's going to call you every time the faucet leaks. Why not rent it to somebody? Rent it to somebody who wants to buy it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. If you can find somebody that would be willing to pay $2,600 a month, I would consider doing that. Yeah.
$2,600 a month. That
Yeah.
that might not.
I actually had somebody myself that I was going to rent to or lease to, but I backed out of it because I wanted to stay here, but I changed my mind.
Yeah. Well, I have to do a little research to find out if similar homes in that area would rent for $2,600. It looks like a nice enough home. I don't see why it wouldn't. But do
Yeah,
we?
most of the homes are about that, anywhere between 2,000 plus, I think, per month.
We could certainly give it a shot.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? You tell me, to still don't understand your program. So
Okay.
What role? Tell me, from A to Z, I guess.
We get paid from our buyers, our tenant buyers. So I'm going to help Ted if this works out, and if you want to do this, I'll help Ted structure this deal, and we're going to give you a contract to lease purchase your house at specific terms. So you tell us basically what you need to walk away with. I think Ted told me you wanted to walk away with $450 or something like that.
Well, ideally more than I paid $580, I think, or $570 for it. But a couple years down the line, it's probably going to be worth more. Who knows for sure what the economy is going to do? But
Yeah.
But anyway, that's probably a fair estimate at this juncture.
So
this year.
it's real simple how we do it. We need to know from you with a minimum price that you want to walk away with in your pocket if and when this house sells a year or two down the road. And we want to know how much you want in minimum rent, and it looks like $2,600.
Yeah, that would cover my mortgage. Yeah.
And then,
Something close to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then what we do is we just add our fee on top of that.
How
Okay?
much do you guys charge?
We keep
For the tenant?
we require 3% down from the tenant buyer.
Okay.
So depending, that just depends on what the price of the home is, whatever you need to walk away with. And so we make our money as investors from the option deposit that the tenant buyer puts down. So a house in this price range,
I didn't hear you on that one. I'm sorry. You make your money from what now?
we make our profit, our fee from the tenant buyer.
Right.
So we're gonna.
How do they, because nobody wants to pay any more than they have to. How do you justify to them? Well, you're going to not only be paying rent to Dwayne, but you're also paying us a percentage. How does that work?
It's part of their down payment that they get back. It's called option deposit, okay? And when they buy your house a year or two down the road, they get that back as part of their down payment.
Yeah. What about the deposit that I would want to have for my, for
Well,
any rent?
a house in this price range, the way we'd set it up is we would give you 1 month's rent, security deposit, and the first month's rent.
Mm-hmm.
And then we keep the rest of the option deposit.
Yeah.
But we add that on to the price that you want. So you tell us whatever it is, 450, 460, 500. You tell us what it is. Now,
How do you find the tenant?
we advertise the house. There's a lot of people in Boise who would love to live in a house in your neighborhood who for some reason or another can't or don't want to get a mortgage right now.
What's the difference between you and my agent that I have that hasn't been able to sell it? What would you say?
Well, we can still work with your agent. You definitely don't want to cancel your listing agreement. But what we do is we're not agents, we're not licensed. So we would give you a lease purchase contract, making us, Ted, would be the tenant buyer, with the right to assign that contract to somebody else. But I call it a flex option. So you can cancel at any time. If your realtor sells the house first, or if you just change your mind, or if you lease it on your own, you can just cancel our lease purchase agreement and we're out of the deal. You don't owe us anything.
Right.
So we're going to get it under contract from you for a certain price and for a certain dollar amount. All right? And then we're going to turn around and advertise it to our buyers as a lease purchase. And when we find a good...
Have you guys ever done anything in Boise?
Personally, I have not, but I've done hundreds of these all over the country.
Yeah. Do you do them at this price point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every market's different. And honestly, in your price point, it'll take us a little longer to find somebody qualified.
Right. Yeah.
But we're looking
I
for
understand
somebody...
that.
We're looking for somebody who has a realistic shot of getting a mortgage in 1 or 2 years. And we want to make sure, number one, that they can afford the house.
So are you going after people that don't necessarily qualify at this time? Is that your whole marketing thing? So,
And for various reasons, they may not want to get a mortgage right now. They may just want to try the house out before they buy it. Maybe it's kind of odd, but some people are going through divorces and they don't want to buy a house right now.
No, I know how that goes, yeah. So basically, I'd keep my realtor or a realtor, and then I'd sign something with you guys, and if I wanted to say, I don't want to do the lease anymore, I would just back out of it, and I won't owe you any money.
Yeah. Now, if we lease purchase it, you're going to have to work out some kind of agreement to pay your realtor a commission or something. But that's totally between you and your realtor to figure out.
How does that normally work?
Well, normally, a seller will tell the realtor, "Hey, I've decided that I need to lease this property. I need to get some income from this." So usually, the seller will pay the realtor 1 month's rent if they lease the property. But you could you could structure this where if there's enough room, you could tell your realtor, "Look, I'll give you 1 month's rent now, and I'll give you the rest of your commission if and when this tenant buyer buys the house a year or two down the road."
You mean another month's rent? Or
Well, the rest of whatever commission they would have received. That's up to you to work out with them.
They get 6%, on both ends, so that's the part that I don't quite understand.
Well, this happens all the time. When a client for a realtor is getting frustrated because a house hasn't sold, and they tell their realtor, "Look, go ahead and advertise this for rent, okay, or lease purchase or whatever," and then you'll have to revise the listing agreement and negotiate a new commission if you lease purchase this house.
Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt,
All right.
but I know his lease,
Okay.
I think your lease expires though in 2 weeks, doesn't it? Or not your lease, his listing.
Yeah.
So, it may be better just to wait until it's expired. We don't want to get in the way of you and your realtor. We're just investors, and so, again, the way we approach this is we'll give you a contract that spells out all the terms so you understand everything going into it of how much we're making and how much you're going to make. And then we start marketing the home as investors. And if we find somebody that we feel is a good fit, we'll let you know. You'll get to meet them or whatever, and then we'll just assign our contract to them. That's how it works.
Gotcha. Okay, well that helps me out, and yeah, I appreciate you telling me the way this works. I'll talk more to Ted about this
Okay.
as the time goes along, and I know Ted's just learning this, so anything you can help him with, I'm sure he'll be calling you. But we'll see what happens here.
Okay,
And,
Ted.
and maybe
I mean,
we can
Dwayne.
do this together. Yeah, that's okay.
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 All right.
You guys having a good time at the conference?
Yeah, it's good. Ted's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very good guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and well, I assume we'll talk again soon.
Okay, Dwayne. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Yeah, he's tough just because he's so frugal. He's
Yeah.
very frugal, and it's like I said, I explained the program to him, and he wants everything for free, you know. And I actually don't know why he hasn't sold though, because it is a nice house in a nice area, and they did bump it down. And his realtor just said I can get it sold for $450. Now she's saying, well, why don't you drop it to $420? I know I can get it sold for that, so that's why he's going to take it off too.
So what are some other questions I could have asked to push the pain button? What are some other questions I could have asked to push the pain button a little bit?
I don't know how you go into this gently, but how do you cover $2,600 a month? When he said he was going to move into the other rental, it's like, why would you move and then leave that house vacant and pay that $2,600? I don't know if there's some way you can.
He's not going to move until somebody's
He
in
wouldn't
it.
do that unless he got it either sold or rented out. And like I said, he could take 20 years. He has enough money that it could be 20 years he could pay that to be vacant, but he doesn't want it. He just doesn't want to, but he's so nervous about any. I mean, like I said, he sold a very successful company, and I told him to try to get involved with his money in real estate, and he's keeping it in the bank earning 1%. And so that's where Dwayne is. He's a lot different. Than
He might be a good guy to talk to about a private lender.
Exactly.
I think he actually is already. He does lend to someone private, but
Yeah.
he won't lend as much as I want him to lend.
Yeah.
But if you take care of that house for him, he'll be there.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If you think you have a future business relationship with him to bring him on as a private lender, maybe instead of keeping the full option deposit, just keep 1 month's rent. That's $2,600.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Well,
And you can tell him, hey, listen, normally I'm going to make $7-8 grand on this, but I'd like to do more business with you and maybe pay you 6-10% on your money. And so let's do it. Let's structure it this way.
Yeah. I think his biggest concern, like I said, because he's so conservative, is what happens if this person gets in my house and wrecks it? What if they don't pay the rent to me and all this? And so I think some of the things you said, where I think you say if we have to evict, I'll pay for the eviction or something like
This
that.
is, when a seller asks me, what if that happens, I just say, call me.
Yeah, and a price,
And we'll do it again.
Something in that price range, you're probably getting a pretty darn good
Yeah.
tenant buyer that has the money and doesn't want to lose that option deposit anyway, so they're at risk for a lot too.
Right.
Like I said, he worries about everything.
A lot of times you'll get objections, and I could talk for hours on this. What do you say? First thing I ask is, well, why are you worried about that? I ask them why they're concerned about it. What's the real problem? Usually it's, if I start answering the question what I think their real concern is, I make the problem worse. They may be worried about a tenant trashing their house, and that just may mean putting a bunch of nail holes. But if I start answering the question like, well, if they tear up your carpet, and if they, and if they burn the house down and the dog craps everywhere, they're like, whoa, I wasn't thinking, I was just thinking nail holes on the wall. So you want to just ask questions. Well, why is that a concern to you? What's the problem? What's the worst case? And then I sometimes don't even answer. I'll say, well, I don't know. Call me. We'll just do it again. Or I'll say, well, listen, what if I could show you a way to help mitigate that? Or to make that less of a problem, less of a risk. If I could show you a way to do that, is there any reason why we couldn't do business today?
Would that be like a warranty then, or?
No, I'm just going to say, look, I'll show you through lease purchasing, you can get somebody that's probably going to take better care of it. And you should inspect the house at least once or twice every couple months. You have the right to do that. You should have a guy, either you or a handyman or somebody, go in and change the furnace filters every couple months. And you can write that in there that you want to be the one who changed the furnace filters. And then that way you can go in there and inspect things and see how it's going.
Once a month.
Mm-hmm. So, okay,
Mind if I ask you a few questions to see if you'd even be interested in making an offer on your house? Or do you mind if I ask you a few questions to see if we could do business today? I always try to just subliminally or as subtly as possible tell the seller, hey, I'm here to do business today. And I'll say, I don't want to waste your time. Really, I'm meaning I don't want you to waste mine. But I don't want to waste your time. If we're not ready to do business today, I'm not going to talk to you forever. I used to make the mistake of talking to sellers for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and not getting anywhere. And I get so frustrated. I felt like I was, I don't take this lightly, but prostituting my knowledge and experience. Like, I know a lot about lease purchasing, and sometimes sellers were just asking me questions so they could learn how to do it themselves.
Right.
You know? So if they're not ready to do business today, then that's okay. It's okay to say no. Let's move on. I like the question, if I could do this and this and this, would you be willing to? Okay? I use that a lot. We wouldn't be open to leasing your house for a few years and then selling it. Again, the what if. Another thing I like to ask is, if I could do this, what would you want to do then?
So the other question is, if I could do this and this, what would you want to do? I'm getting them to tell me, okay, I'll do a lease purchase. Sometimes I'll ask them to, I'm sorry, what'd you say? I'll do a lease purchase.
Check the connection again.
Check, check. It says green.
Is it plugged in well?
No, now it is. Sorry.
Start over.
We're just talking about questions to ask sellers. And again, is there any reason why we couldn't do business? So this is only like a small percentage of my script. My script is real simple. And I just have, what I recommend doing is taking 6 or 7 of these kinds of questions and just writing them down on a piece of paper next to your phone. And when you're talking to sellers, just ask them these questions. Why hasn't it sold yet? What are you going to do if you can't sell the house? Have you rented property before? Have you had a lot of tenants? You know? All right, let's call some more leads.
I got 2 questions, if it's okay, Joe.
Yeah.
And this is going back to Dwayne, like I said, and like I said, he's been a buddy since high school, but he's very eccentric. And one of the things is, why do you want to get rid of this house? And I don't think he'd tell you, because maybe he would or maybe wouldn't. He tells me it's cursed. He got
cursed.
married, moved into the house, he ended up getting divorced, then he had back surgery, he messed his back up, so he just, he shared this with me, and that's another reason that I'm saying, isn't this a great way to get out of it when you still have someone paying down your mortgage? I mean, if in 2 years they don't buy it, they pay down your mortgage, but he's very difficult to...
So just to bring this up more, he says the house is cursed, okay? What are some questions you could ask him to kind of push that pain button?
Why do you think it's cursed?
Why do you think it's cursed? Why'd your wife leave you? No, I'm just kidding. What are some other questions you could ask to maybe push that pain button a little bit, to play on the emotions?
Well, he's losing $2,600 a month if he hates it, and he's living somewhere else, he's gonna be losing $2,600 a month. So as the months go by, he could add that up. If you don't sell it in 6 months, how much money is that?
Well, he's living in it right now.
Huh?
He's living in it right now, but you could ask him,
Right,
how much longer could you live in this cursed house?
yeah.
And
I did tell
keep-
him the winter's coming up, so it's going to be tougher to sell on a normal sale versus
Right.
a lease option. So, I mean, you can get someone in. And again, what I played on, and I'm not trying to rip them off or anything, I just said, you want out of this house. And I mean, this house is pretty darn expensive. You're going to get someone in there that's pretty responsible or at least has a good income to take care of this.
Mhm.
He's a tough
Yeah.
cookie.
Another question you could ask, let's say he's not living there, is, well, surely you got, at least 6 months of reserves to make payments on a vacant house, right?
Obviously he does.
He does, but probably your normal person would.
Well, then I would say you certainly don't have a problem with spending 6 months of your savings on a cursed house, do you? How bad do you want to get rid of this thing?
That's more than what you'd be paying me to do this lease option.
Yeah, that's more than you.
The 27,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to do it themselves.
Now you notice I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
I'm not going on this rant, or, of like, well, this is why a lease purchase would be good, because we can do this and we can do that, and here's the advantages, and you're going to get somebody who does this and that, and it doesn't cost you a thing. I used to do that, and I just sounded like a salesman instead of somebody that had real solutions that, you know, if you need my assistance, that's great. If not, that's okay. Because it gives that air, it gives the impression that, you know what, this guy, Joe, the investor, he knows what he's doing. He's important. He's got a lot of business, you know. And I want him to lease purchase this house for me because he wants my business, but he doesn't need my business. You see the difference?
You could say too something like, does the $27,000 every day you're losing every year really bother you that much?
Mm-hmm. Good. The question was, does that losing $27,000 really bother you that much? My wife would kill me if I was losing $27,000 a month.
The way I approached it was I said, if you want to live in a place for $1,000, you're saving $1,500 a month by leasing this out. That's $18,000 you're saving just by doing a lease option instead of staying there yourself.
So you're just asking questions. There's a raised
Why
hand.
are you so concerned about paying the realtor when they didn't sell the house for him and they didn't get somebody in there?
Well, why am I concerned about paying the realtor? He has a listing agreement with that realtor that's probably 6 months. It's a contract. It's a 3-month contract.
That's why it expires pretty soon in the next
So it
few
expires in a few weeks. You know, if that's the case, I may not even worry about it because it's more hassle than it's worth. Sometimes realtors, those of you know, they get really uptight, and you know, there's something gets in a wad, and it's like, it's just, I don't have time to mess with that. You know what I'm saying? And they're, you know, and look at it from their perspective. They've put a lot of time and money into marketing this home, you know, and they're just gonna lose it to some shyster investor that's coming along. So I can understand why they'd be upset. They don't understand, though, that a lease purchase may be the best way for them to keep their commission. But I don't want to get in the position of trying to convince them of that. It's just not worth it. So if a realtor gets upset, then you should just drop it and tell the seller, hey, call me back when this is expired. Okay, does that make sense? You realtor guys out there? So always try to make sure the realtor it's fair, to make sure the realtor gets compensated.